Ready?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so what we're going to do, this is not the blue-bellied roller, it's another roller. But you notice that the eye is definitely underneath the ridge here. This is a carnivore. You can tell by the bill, especially from the side. So we want the eye set up underneath. This is also the shape of the bill. We're going to have to do the bill right now, so we need this here. And what we can do is here, you notice that from the edge of the eye is where the gape is. The gape basically there on both of these. So we're going to have to put the gape in the right place. Looking down the top, we see that we got this nice wedge here. Widest part of the head, the ear coverts. This is down further. This again shows the sunken eyes, kind of an angry look. Side of the bill, you notice the bill has a sharp tip to it here. It's going to be difficult. And the gape down underneath the eye, right here, it goes underneath the eye. This is basically where the feathering is, different shapes of feathering. We're not doing the mouth open. Again, you can see the eye is set in underneath to give it that angry look. And this is one other picture. It doesn't look like anything we want, but we do. Underneath the bill right here, we can notice the shape underneath the bill, which we're going to need. Okay, so what we're going to do first is I marked the place where the eye is, and we dug in somewhat of an eye channel. This is the beginning of the eye, the end of the eye, the center of the eye, and the eye channel. Also, from the side, this is where the gape ends right here, about where the eye is. But if you look at it from the front, it's way, way out here, which is not right. It needs to be in here where the eye is. So this has got to be cut in here deeply. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to stop here and put the bit in.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm using a much smaller bit. This is about a 5, and the eye is going to be a 6 or a 7. Remember, we got to cut up underneath. So I'm going to just drill a hole here about approximately where the eye is. And the same for the other side. Now I am going to have to dig up underneath for that. Now we're going to dig in the gape to the right depth now. So we're going to change bits and do that. And now I got to dig the gape down to that level there. And on the other side. Here comes that low. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to round this off here some, get rid of this. And while we're here, we might as well do this. We need that V up in here. So what I'm going to do now is round off some pieces here. I'm not going to show you all that, it's going to be time consuming. So we're going to do that, and when we come back, we'll look at some more.
Okay.
Okay, so we've done quite a bit of work, probably more than we should have while we were off, but I enlarged the eye hole so I get an idea up here, undercutting the eye. Cut the notch in here for the V of the bill. Undercut where the line is for the top bill, bottom bill, and then back to where the gape is. That's always the key. Where is the gape here in terms of width, in terms of placement? And then there's a piece here you can see on these birds, not that particular picture. On this picture you can see that it comes out around here in the bill. There's a bunch of drawings. So we want that, and that will then lead into the shape underneath the bill that we want. So what I'm going to do now is get off film and smooth things up even more, make the bill look more like a bill. Check the eye size. I'm going to take the eye, poke the eye in there, and make sure that it actually fits. Okay, so that's where we're going to stop.
Okay.
Okay, so what I've done here is just painted the back of the color. Brown is a very common color for songbird eyes, even though this guy's not quite a songbird. Then I ended up going around the edge of the eye just to make sure there isn't too much paint sticking out around the edge. Next thing I'm going to do is mix up some epoxy, which is this piece of glob here. It comes in all kinds. I think the best kind I've found so far is epoxy with an A, or type AB. AB seems to work well. The nice thing about that stuff is if you let it sit for a week or two, it actually hardens up much harder and will actually allow you to do stoning on it. If you do it too early though, it won't work. Okay, so what I'm going to do is mix this up. All you got to do here is just make sure that the colors are even. It doesn't really matter what color you're using. Some of it's green, some of it's black and gray, some of it's white. It's not going to show. It does help if it is, you're able to move it around with a wet paintbrush, because that way you smooth around the eye a little bit better. So once you get it mixed up, just want to make sure there's no streaks in it. I'm going to take a small glob of it. And never been able to figure this out exactly, but what you want to do is put a bead of it in the eye. Like that, and then press the eye in. You have something like a pencil.
Stop. You're wiggling too much. I can't follow you.
Okay.
Okay.
If you have something like a pencil or a tongue depressor, or you can actually press this in a little bit easier and not damage the eye. Okay, the key here is to get it tilted properly, and to see that, you need to trim off some of this extra. As I said before, the closer to the eye you get, the more critical it is. So obviously this is about as critical as you can get in terms of making the carving look good or look terrible. So what I want to do now is just check from the front, not in enough. Trim around a little bit. What I will do is if it needs it, I'll come back with a very thin ribbon of epoxy and put an eye ring around it, which is really helpful in a lot of ways. What I'm doing now is underneath the eyebrow here. Obviously, to get the eye up in there, we had to dig that out some. So now I'll just fill it up. I can always carve that away. Still not in quite far enough. And the first eye is always the easiest one because you can't go wrong because you're not matching it with anything. The second one has to match this one. So if you dig the hole a little bit bigger than the actual size of the eye, it gives you a little bit of leeway to push it around. And you want to check this every possible way you can to make sure that it's where you want it. The alternative is to dig it back out, waste a pair of eyes, and do it all over again. Okay, I'm going to ask my better half what she thinks of the eye placement so far, because she's a pretty good judge of that. There's that other one. I'd rather put a little bit too much in than a little too little. Maybe a little more. Since I'm sliding the eye up underneath that eyebrow, that's got to go in first, and then the rest of it's got to go in. And now we're trying to match the other eye. Depending on the epoxy you use, you have more or less time. If you find your epoxy starting to harden up, get rid of it, waste some more. It's better to do it than to have it harden up and try to rush. And how's he looking so far there? We're going to take a check. You might take a while. You're looking at the bill. The bill's not smoothed up. It's basically shaped, but you can see it's rough here. It's not a smooth transition here. So I've got to work around the bill some. And that, the other part I did a little bit of stoning in here for the feathers. Did the top of the head stoning. You notice back here I did quite a bit of texturing with it first. But anyway, we'll work on the bill a little bit and we're done.